Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here for the 7th episode of the Bright Young Thing Legacy in Cultist Simulator, playing as David Ellison, sorry. So, we've dedicated ourselves to enlightenment. We are at the height of our creative powers. We're trying to move up on our scholarship, but I did bungle the erudition. I was too busy reading books to see that this was expiring. The intention is to combine it into a lesson learned, but I've got 49 seconds and only 42 seconds left for this erudition. So I'm going to have a solution to that, but we're going to need to wait a few seconds for it. Exploration, on the other hand, there's an open question because we've kind of cleaned out Moorlands, although whether or not we read the books are another question. So I think probably the right call for now is to go to Oriflamme's. Oriflamme's is going to be sort of a fairly costly source of books. The reason for this is that I may wind up in something of a bidding war. But I don't know. I kind of feel like at this point we just have the option of not buying something. And once my funds go below sort of a double-digit number, maybe that's when we sell some of the surplus, or when, I just try and find other ways of making money. So for starters, Oriflamme specializes in curios, perfumes, taxidermy specimens, and rare texts. It operates from cramped new premises now, since the destruction of the old by an unexplained fire. We perch on alarming Rietveld chairs in a windowless auction room with vividly burnt orange walls, waiting for the auctioneer to announce what he's offering. The reek of new paint makes the brain spin. So in this case, I'm a little tempted to try and sell the collection of poetry, but we've got enough to buy something, so we will start the auction, and I'm very bad at getting distracted, so I may wind up losing items as well. Okay, so this one is Kerner and Goethe, and I'm never able to pronounce this. Ausführlich Grammatik der griechischen Sprache, a Greek grammar, an essential weapon for a ferocious struggle with a challenging language. Of course, we already have that in my inventory, so there's no reason to be spending more money on that. There's nothing to be ashamed of here, even though I'm coasting on my reputation. My recent work is considered significant. I may yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. So we're up 2 funds. I think we did spend on the paints, though, so I'm really only up the 1 for that. Still, nothing to complain about. It's better than picking up heavy things and putting them down again for a job. How long are these lasting? 61 seconds. I feel like we can trade out a couple. I will be that pedantic about it. All right. And no staleness, which is good. So, we start by adding the reputation. And in this case, we will use the erudition as inspiration. Now, of course, that's going to keep the timer running on this one, but that's fine, because ultimately what we're trying to do is combine the 2 eruditions. So as long as I don't make the same mistake with study, we're going to be able to combine things again. I may also want to consider using my reason twice just to get the lesson learnt. That is an option available to me right now. Once you get to the higher levels, it's a little bit harder to maintain the erudition that you need, but in this case, we'll be able to at least make something of what we already got on the board. Some days are better than others. Sometimes the sky is nothing like a filthy sheet. Sometimes the river runs clear. And the clouds part, the wolf despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It's over for now. One thing I do kind of like about the relative difficulty of advancing my knowledge is that we were on our way on a sensation victory, which, one might associate a bit more with passion. And so it's kind of interesting to be in a situation where, like, pursuing the thing that I went for, that I chose to go into, finding that harder. I do like the idea of the difficulty on that path. Again, this has been a fairly lucky individual who, seems to just kind of have the right things happen at just the right moment. And maybe the erudition we need is going to kind of pop out of nowhere, as all these other things have happened. Maybe we don't want it to come from nowhere, but pop out of thin air. There is something kind of, I don't know, it feels kind of fitting that having dedicated ourselves to enlightenment, it's actually the scholarship that we're struggling to improve. Anyways, we're going to head back to Oriflamme's, and we'll see if there's anything I can pick up from that. So Peculiar Rumor would be nice because that will give me another follower. It does, however, come at the cost of notoriety and at a time that I am trying to get my reputation, kind of clean that up. So we'll skip the Peculiar Rumor and we'll either go to the Temple of the Wheel or the Well. Let's try the Wheel again. More trembling arrows. In the wood beyond the walls of the Mansus, a jagged rock rears like the petrified remnants of a dancing giant. I trailed my hand along its flank over the eye signs and lichen and crude graffiti of the lesser wood powers, and I felt the thrumming of the wheel which has passed. It has passed, but something continues. So depending on... we might be able to turn this into a lesson learned. Oh, actually, I don't think I need to turn it into a lesson learned. We can study with those. So another, definitely a very, it's going to be a pretty narrow window for the study verb for the next little while, but it's not a bad place to be. And again, we don't have staleness, so I don't mind ponying up for the painting. Okay, crowd of pinched faces, glinting eyes, who will bid? In this case, it's a collection of poetry, so I'm fine to leave that behind. Okay, back to the War of the Roads, 1450-1580. The royalty of England, according to Willisford, became the sovereigns of the leashed flame, destroying or transforming their enemies, conquering Europe, establishing grand cathedrals to St. Spark. The alliance with the Forge begins to take its toll. The last few chapters are missing entirely. So we have a furtive truth. Oddly enough, we're doing better at getting advanced secret histories than the basics, but we'll continue. I'm actually going to try reading Traveling at Night. For some reason, I think it's just because of the associations I always have between Teresa and Christopher. I feel like this is one of these things that might get me erudition. Oh, but hang on. I was going to say I was going to hold on to that, so I will move Traveling at Night first, but I am going to combine the erudition first. Hey, another patron. Good work. This is work I can be proud of. With enough publicity, it will sell. The recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. Now, unfortunately, we just... oh, no, hang on. We got quite a bit of money from that, so... lucky me. And still no staleness. Okay, so we're going to take the 2 erudition and exercise the mind. I kind of want to run ahead with the painting right away, so let's keep going at this pace. I should take 2 of these out. I guess it doesn't really matter which one, but... And as far as inspiration goes, I think in this case I'm going to try and preserve the vitality again, because we have the potential here to improve my health. The auction is over. The lot has gone elsewhere. I retain my funds. Okay, Season of Vision's coming up, so I may want to be careful of passion paintings. Gildersleeve's Latin grammar. Now, I don't think we no, hang on. We already read, so we don't need to worry about that either. Just what you need to refresh your knowledge of Latin. So Oriflamme's really hasn't been turning up anything all that interesting so far. I should have read this. I have picked up odd facts here and there. If I spend time studying what I've learned, I could increase my reason. So just a reminder, we are looking for a second lesson learned. One temptation is for me to just study with reason twice. So that would be 120 minutes worth, plus the time it will take me to combine the 2. Tempting to take the occult scrap at this point, just because I need them for the expeditions. I walked in the wood last night, and the scissors worked in the distance, and furred things crammed my mouth and swarmed my ears, and I felt the old urge to drop to wolf fours and nose among the roots. But I remembered that I walk upright by day, and I know fire and steel and words, and at last I found where the velvet had concealed a secret on the tree bark beneath moss. I read it then with the tips of my fingers, and I think now that I could write it in full. And here we have, secret histories are layered beneath the one we know, like notes in a rare wine. So a little more progress along those lines. I think we're just going to keep going through the dream. I don't think there's a whole lot more for me to do with dream right now, other than continue to pursue the wood. I don't think Moth is going to get us through the wood again. probably be Lantern. Pretty much, I think Lantern and Knock always do. I actually think in this case we have to do Lantern. I don't think there are any of the others. Anyways, if there are, I don't remember them, and it's not that important. Auction is over. The lot has gone elsewhere. I retain my funds. Once more into Oriflammes. We can learn from each other. Suluchana Amavasaya, the laconic, energetic, bright-eyed, unblinking owner of the Ecdysis Club. So we'll start by getting a commission. Suluchana stubs out her cigarette. Yes, if you want to study the language with me, yes, you can. Was there something else? Oh, hang on. Can I get a commission from her? I don't think I can. That's what steers you. Figured we'd see what happens. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. So, seems like we didn't get much out of that. And we do have some staleness now, so I think for that, let's grab the soon to expire. Ah. You never know, this might be a living. Oh, but what's my subject? Good question. We also have a Course of the Heart coming up, so I don't really want to abandon the... Oh, here's what I do. I'll give it 5 seconds, and then I'll just throw the erudition inside of it. My mind, the library. Use this lesson learnt with your scholarship skill. So we'll do a painting on how clever I am. I'm ready to improve, and we will... put the 2 vitality into the study slot. Exercise the body. I'm abrim with vitality. If I devote some time to exercise, I will benefit. So that gives us an extra health to work with. Doesn't really calm the reputation, but I'll worry about that later. The Wolf Despair prowls elsewhere. Season of Suspicion doesn't mean anything because there's already an investigation going on. My own heart pumps more strongly today. Okay, auction's over. Let's go back, see if we can get anything good. And another collection of poetry. That's good for a lesson learned. The well in the wood is sacred to the Grail, the hour that hungers, and to the velvet, the hour that guards secrets. Tonight, as I approached, it heaved with the velvet's moss, struggling waves of deep and vibrant green, pulsing again and again from its throat. It surged around my calves, rose to my thighs, and this morning I still feel the velvet's breath strong within me. So I do still want to pursue at least that extra lesson learnt for the erudition, but given that we've got 2 vitality now, I think what I'm going to do in the wood is I'm going to prioritize the well, just so we can get some extra vitality, and that'll put us on, on the path to getting more health. Health is not as important to me right now. I could actually, probably get by without giving it the top level, but there's a few things that we're doing right now which make that it's an option that I have. Like, it's not super important for me to well, okay. Basically, it's helpful for me for later lore upgrades, and generally it's nice to just get the pursuit of the vitality out of the way rather than sort of be later on in the playthrough and say, oh, if only I had, gotten this thing. So I'm going to pursue it, but I will pursue it somewhat casually. Definitely if we wind up getting erudition, that's the thing that I'm going to pursue more aggressively. Sorry, sometimes it's a little hard for me to explain the reasoning again, because I've already sort of moved on to the next thought in my in my head, but just because I'm thinking it doesn't necessarily mean it was communicated on stream. So sometimes need to get a little bit better at that. All right, not looking good as far as painting's concerned. We're covering rent, but that's really all we're doing. You never know, this might be a living. I have no common ground there. I chose a different road a very long time ago, but if that's the road you wish to walk, speak to me again at the Ecdysis Club. Ah. I think... if she's talking about a different road, I think... well, we'll see. I'm probably putting a little bit more emphasis on that than I needed to. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. I should pick an inspiration, so let's use the vitality. Or, actually no, let's keep the erudition going. And I've grown stronger. I've gained health, but it will be more difficult to gain health next time, so we now have a stronger physique. I have benefited from exercise. So again, I have a couple dilemmas here as far as what to use the study verb for, but I am going to continue down the original plan that I had, which was traveling at night. Another option I have is to mess around a bit with a fleeting reminiscence, and I think I will take that option, but I want to be a little more, like, I want to do that maybe when I don't have something like a Season of Vision, or yeah, Season of Vision's kind of floating around on the table. So for now, let's start with Traveling at Night, the annotated dream journals of Christopher Lopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist, literate, entertaining, bewildering. The woods lie outside the walls of the Mansis. As any student of the histories knows, the Mansis has no walls. Alright, Stumm, a can of nitrate film labeled Stumm, silent or perhaps mute. The director's name, Yernik Krossa, is shakily appended. So this is one that we'll also have to pay for the projector for. I've raised my hand. The auctioneer raps out an acknowledgement. Will anyone match me? And we have the option to pay for paints, but given that we've got staleness, and we'll avoid that. I don't 100% know how the staleness interacts with the value of the painting, but in this case I don't like the idea of sort of... I want the funds to sort of have the maximum impact, so generally I tend not to augment paintings that are going to be affected by that. The auctioneer makes a note of my name and signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it was worth it. Now this, I believe, gives me a dread, so I want to be a little thoughtful in terms of when I study that. But we're going to go back to Oriflammes to see if we can find anything else. Back to the well. Again, we were going to do that just so I could maximize the chances of getting vitality. So many things rise from the well in the wood. Last night it was a swarm with wormy roots. The trees clustered and whispered. Perhaps they were welcoming the influx. I found a sleeping soul ensnared in the roots, and I helped them struggle free. When they wake, they will recall my face, as I do theirs. Ugh. Worthless! But sells. My recent work is considered significant. I may yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. How is the staleness going? Yeah, we earn more staleness for that. So as much as I would love to pursue something more high-minded, I am still... I still don't have the passion back, so... Let's keep flogging this thing for what it's worth, and we will continue to extend the life of the erudition. Guardsides, alright. They really want me to learn languages. I'm probably going to have to make a move on this vitality sooner rather than later. Well, I get one more out of that. But as we were hoping for, we do have an erudition that we can work with. So, Elopoli describes how he came to make repeated visits to a dream wood via what he calls silver dreams. Trying to think your way to the wood, he explains, is like thinking your way to being in love, but I did find a secret that helped. The barber's warning. A power of the wood enjoys the separation of the lock from the scalp. For attention, burn it. For opportunity, bury it. Okay, I'm going to try reading on the white. I don't know if it's going to get me the erudition, but I feel like this is worth trying. So, on the white, Solomon Husher writes, perhaps allegorically, of winter and its long, slow, doomed romance with the sun. The epigraph is sunset at noon. On closer investigation, the work seems to be a theory of aesthetics, or perhaps a set of warnings about the dangers of painting. We are not going to pay for the colors of the night for reasons I sort of explained before. And if I'm lucky, I'll get a light in the skull. Although, again, there's a few different ways we can wind up with an erudition. Now, I do want the collection of essays. That's going to be something we potentially use later. My recent work is considered significant. I might yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. So, good payday. Yeah, we'd still keep that around. So, I'm trying to think. We do have the restlessness, which is coming up, but in this case, I think I still probably want to preserve the lesson learned. Although, where on earth did it go? There we are. Yeah, I think we're going to do... 8.3. I'm not crazy about doing sort of this half move, but it's what I've got. Yeah. You never know, this might be living. I've got to take the scrap in this case. I walked in the wood last night, and the scissors worked in the distance, and furred things crammed in my mouth and swarmed my ears, and I felt the old urge to drop to wolf fours and nose among the roots, but I remembered that I walk upright by day, and I know fire and steel and words, and at last I found where the velvet had concealed a secret on tree bark beneath moss. I read it then with the tips of my fingers, and I think now that I could write it in full. So I do eventually want to start exploring these, but I have, as always, it's just a question in terms of what my priorities at any given moment are. So at the moment, continuing to go back to the wood is a good idea. And because I'm pursuing both the scholarship and the stronger physique at the same time, I kind of need to think a bit about what's going to get me the most of the inputs that I need. So we won't pay for paints again, and we do get the collection of essays. So the auctioneer makes note of my name and signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it's worth it. I think there's only ever 4 collections of essays, so I don't expect too much more out of that. Come with me. Alright, so we've got another follower, and because this potentially generates erudition, we are going to continue to talk about the Watchman's Secret. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. And we have De Bellis Murorum, so one that we won't read for a while because of the Latin, but certainly one that I want to add to my collection. A little under 2 minutes for the erudition, and sadly this did not give me the erudition. Alright. Husher writes distractedly of his hatred of colors and his yearning for death. He hints at a great work that he has envisaged or begun, where the palest of paintings will enthrall the world. He returns again and again to certain compelling phrases, which he claims are the secret words of winter. So just to get myself a little more certainty, let's combine the 2 vitality here. That'll turn it into a lesson learned. Now that's going to occupy this for 60 seconds, which I'm not crazy about, but we still have some time for the erudition. Actually, I don't quite have enough, but I will be able to paint to extend the life of this thing. Okay, I also need to worry about restlessness in a little bit. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I'm saying if that means anything. Okay, we got some money. We did... Well, okay, it says overexposure here, but we seem to be treading water as far as the reputation is concerned. I am going to go straight into another painting. And for this, I'm actually going to extend this erudition's life a little bit, because I might need a little bit more. The auctioneer makes a note of my name and signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it's worth it. So we've been doing pretty well with Oriflammes in terms of costs, and there's a lot of stuff that we don't use again, but I'm happy to just kind of pick up... I want to be able to pick up as much as I can and turn that into... Oh, yep, we've finished him off. So, dreadful souffle of half-digested rumor about the secret world and the irrelevance of contemporary morality, including a catalog of unlikely and probably invented debaucheries. If I've bought this from a shop, it probably means there's nothing else of interest left in stock, so we can sell off the rest. It's not entirely clear to me that we have the time to get past this restlessness, but I'm gonna roll the dice and see if it turns out. Again, I gotta go for the scrap, and we have read that recently, so I will skip over that text for now. I don't want to skip over the text every time, but for the ones where it's long and we've done it recently, especially because I only have a couple minutes left, I figured we can safely pass over that one this time. Okay, I don't think the Queens in the Rivers is going to get me some extra erudition, but I'm extending the life of this one for that very reason. So let's go... oddly enough, on what is contained by silver might actually get me erudition. But let's go back to the wood. And I think I am going to still read the Queens in the Rivers, but I should probably explore with the Fleeting Reminiscence next. Oops. I thought I was undercounting the Mystique. Okay, so I do eventually want to sell off some of the books that I don't have much use for, but let's start by letting memory guide my steps. My thoughts will wander and I will follow. Old emotions will come to roost. And I'm ready to grow stronger. Use this lesson learnt with your strength skills. So again, we'll get the other lesson learnt by going to the Mansis. Erudition we need to get by reading books, and that might be even just, you know, newspapers and such, but we'll see how things go after the Queen of the Rivers. The Queen of the Vistula is sorry, I should read the text first. Surreal contemporary play by the enigmatic Monica Medina, in which the Queens of the Rivers are murdered one by one. The Queen of the Vistula is poisoned. The Queen of the Dnieper chokes on a fishhook. The Queen of Vitagus is burnt alive. Again, we're relying on my reputation to sell a worthless painting, and we sort of did it. We're up to 4 staleness now. I'm going to be a little corny here and try to preserve the erudition for a few more seconds. Now, we're going in having claimed all of the books that we can from the normal places we can purchase them. Coming in with 15 funds is a pretty strong start. Any other books that we get are going to have to come from expeditions. So in 30 seconds or so, we'll figure out whether or not I need to Okay, contentment. I'm not going to complain about contentment, but it's definitely not what I needed. So, again, I do want to sell off some stuff at Oriflam's when I can, but it seems to me like getting some expeditions are where I want to go next. So, there are places in the city where I can find extraordinary things if I can sift the clues out of history and rumor. Now, again, we're not actually going to follow through on any of these until we have until we're not under investigation. But it doesn't mean I can't at least lay the groundwork. And Court of Truth. The velvet is strong in the well in the wood, and the velvet is the hour that keeps secrets. But now and then she lets a little secret fall, like a crumb at a feast. Last night I found moss-clad rock written all around with the secrets of another history. I might give thanks to the velvet, but it would be wiser not to draw her attention. And on that note, I think we wrap up for tonight. So pretty clear moves for the next little while. I do need to get another erudition, and that can either be obtained by studying reason, or I can try and get lucky with the Watchman's Secret again. But I think in this case here, if reading the Queens and the Rivers doesn't give me erudition, which I suspect it won't, it's probably better for me to just bank the 29 seconds accept the 29 seconds as a loss. Read for 60. We definitely have enough inside of the lesson learned, and of course we'll also be able to paint, and then we just move on, and then hopefully that'll still leave enough time for the vitality, the lesson learned for a stronger physique, although health is not as big of a priority as my erudition. But again, that will all be dealt with in what should be Friday's episode, so I hope to see you then. Thank you very much for watching, and take care until the next one.